How's it going, guys, and welcome to Foremar Ranch. Wait a second, you probably can't see me right now because I'm in a completely dark room. Sounds like you need something like an Armasight BNVD 40. Let's go ahead and turn it on and take a peek. That's probably better, right? So currently you are actually looking at me through a Generation 3 night vision device brought to you by Armasight. So this is their Pinnacle Series white phosphor tube. You're actually seeing as close as what I can get to showing you what it's like to look through one of these amazing devices. Now, I want to start this video out with the caveat up front that it is impossible to show you all the magic of night vision digitally through a camera and then upload it to YouTube and then through compression and all that, and then whatever device you may be viewing it on. To the user's eyes, looking through modern night vision devices is absolutely phenomenal. There's not an LCD display inside modern night vision devices. There's so much magic to it. Now, I'm not going to get into all of that magic in this video, but I will kind of scratch the surface a little bit. All those really nitty-gritty details are for a later time. And because of all the things I'm going to get into in this video, check the description below. There will be timestamps. If YouTube does its thing, it should segment the video. So when you drag that video bar, it'll skip things around for you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and turn the lights on and talk about the Armasight BNVD 40. Like I said, guys, welcome to Foremar Ranch. Today, I'm really excited to be sharing with you the Armasight BNVD 40s. So what are the BNVD 40s? What is night vision? What is it good for? All great questions I hope to answer in this video. But I want to get some quick disclosures out of the way. Speaking of Armasight, what is my relationship with them and how did I acquire these? Well, they did approach me and ask if I'd be interested in playing around with them for a little bit to then share my thoughts and opinions with you guys. So as part of my thoughts and opinions, being honest and unbiased, I always like to disclose my relationship with different companies. So take that for what it is, guys. You can draw your own conclusions. I will back up my opinions with actual facts and data throughout this video. Now, while we're on the subject of Armasight, that may kind of trigger your subconscious a little bit because they were a pretty predominant name. They were established in 2011 and they were kind of one of the front runners to a lot of night vision and thermal technologies. In fact, they kind of pioneered the commercially available thermal market that you and I are still benefiting from today. So they really established their name very strong, so much so that in 2016, FLIR, another one of the thermal giants, actually acquired Armasight and made Armasight a branch within FLIR. But unfortunately in 2019, FLIR made the decision to shut that branch down. But then in 2020, Armasight is relaunched independent of FLIR, but we all know what happened in 2020. So obviously startup progress is not going to be ideal during the start of a pandemic. But here we are, early 2024, and Armasight is, rapidly releasing innovative products to the market again, which I'm pretty excited about, so hopefully you guys are as well. All that being said, I do have an Armasight affiliate link, full disclosure, so if you decide you want to invest in the BNVD 40s after watching this video, you can do so at no additional cost to you while supporting the channel. So I greatly appreciate that. I actually encourage you to find ways to support your gun tubers through whatever kind of affiliate links or Patreons they may have. It's really hard for us to make this kind of content on YouTube, guys, so if you are interested in supporting, if you're already set on picking one of these up, check the description below. I will have an affiliate link, and I'd greatly appreciate your support if you want to help us out. So now with all that out of the way, we have the BNVD 40s. What are they? They are binocular night vision devices with a 40-degree field of view. You can see that they are articulating. It is duals. It is, again, it is a binocular, guys. These are not monos. And they are rocking the latest night vision technology. They do have Generation 3 tubes. The tubes inside these are made from Elbit Systems of America, which is a very, very known name in the night vision world. But they are the Pinnacle Series tubes, which are exclusively made for Armasight. So some really, really high quality tubes that come inside the BNVD 40s. Now, if you have not had the opportunity to look through a Generation 3 night vision device, well, I highly encourage you to try, because usually you get reactions like my wife's. Okay, open your eyes.
Wow, that's really cool. It looks like you're looking like in the light.
And just for comparison, what you see, like, see with that dark eye, what you're actually looking at? How dark it is?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's neat.
It looks like it's daytime.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I see the deer across the street over there.
So every time I was able to share the experience with my friends or family looking through the BNVD 40s for the first time, it's typically the same reaction. They're just literally blown away, a lot of times jaw hanging open. Unfortunately, I didn't record all the reactions. Now I kind of wish I would have made a compilation, but Generation 3 night vision technology is absolutely insane. Now, I'm not trying to make this a video on how night vision works. That'll be for a later time. I'm going to just scratch the surface about everything you need to know to make a decision on the BNVD 40s. We'll cover what can potentially be included with these, some accessories I would recommend you picking up to actually run these properly. And of course, I'm going to share some sample footage with you guys, which I'm sure you're interested in. Again, just scratching the surface, essentially Generation 3 night vision gathers all the photons in your environment. Now, you and I see photons on the visible light spectrum. So the monitor you're watching me right now, that's all visible light. There's probably additional light too, but you are only picking up the visible light spectrum and you see what you're seeing now. These devices will pick up visible light, but they also can see infrared light. So they're gathering photons on a wider spectrum than what your eyes are able to see. So it gathers all that information, and then essentially that hits a phosphor screen that is digitally excited within the housing. That screen then glows, and that glowing is converted to the visible light spectrum. But what's really cool, when I mentioned the phosphor screen, there's not a LCD screen, there's not any kind of digital interface, a digital screen like what you're watching this video on. So you get pretty much a one-to-one reproduction of the environment. So there's no latency whatsoever. What you see is happening in real time. Also, the resolution, which is dependent on the tubes, but it is substantially higher than what you would be used to if you were using like a digital night vision device looking through a screen. It is absolutely incredible, and that's typically why you get that jaw-dropping reaction when people look through these for the first time. They're absolutely phenomenal, and that is why the price tag is what it is. Now, for those of you that may be watching this video like, oh, he didn't mention the price, I don't like to do that because I don't know if you're watching this video at the time it's released, or if you're watching it 5 years from now. At the time of release, this BNVD 40 can be had for roughly $7,000, give or take different sales. Again, there is a bundle that you can get where everything you need right out of the gate, which is kind of what you see here in front of me. I'm going to talk more about that later in the video, but you actually get the mount, the helmet, a case, and some other accessories. So skip around to what part of the video you want to see. That is the current price at the time of making this video. Now, though that price seems pretty steep, it's not comparable to digital night vision. Totally different technology, and it blows digital night vision completely out of the water. It is, pun intended, it's a night and day difference when we're talking digital versus analog night vision. And again, that'll be a future video to come on the channel. So focusing on the BNVD 40s, I already mentioned they are an articulating binocular night vision device. Now, the articulation means that when you stow them, you can actually also make them a little bit more compact on the helmet. Non-articulating binos will stow up like this. You can see it's pretty large form factor. That center of gravity isn't super close to the user's head, so the articulation allows you to store them a lot cleaner. This is going to make it more comfortable on the user because, again, that center of gravity is wanting to pull forward a little bit less neck strain. It also makes it easier to navigate in tight spaces, namely getting in and out of vehicles. Your head sits pretty close typically to, you know, the roof of the vehicle, and this extra height is going to make you kind of have to duck and be careful not to bump them around, although these are pretty resilient because they are in an aluminum housing. Now, they weigh 645 grams or roughly 1.42 pounds. I am not running a counterweight, so for those of you guys that think, oh, the aluminum housing, that's going to be heavy, it's been completely balanced and fine without a counterweight. What a counterweight does, for those that aren't familiar with night vision, is it basically kind of balances out this natural forward motion to where now the weight is all just straight down. So you have more weight on your head, but it's going downwards rather than pulling forward. So a lot of people find that to be more comfortable. Also, if you don't have a helmet that fits you very well, the counterweight is going to help with that movement. What else does the BNVD 40 feature? Well, it has manual gain. Now, for those that aren't familiar, there's really two options in the industry, manual gain and auto gain. And the best way I can put it is if you think of your cell phone where you want to go and take a photo in a darker environment, it basically has auto gain where it's going to try to brighten or decrease the intensity of the brightness of the image based on your ambient environment. It's going to do that for you unless you have a third-party app that lets you do manual control. You have no control over that. Sometimes it gets it right. Sometimes the compensation that it's trying to do to that image sensor actually degrades the image because it's focused on lighting. Now, I'm not saying it's a one-to-one comparison, but it's kind of similar when we're talking about a night vision device. If you had auto gain, you lose that control. It's going to do it for you, but you lose that control, so you can't then optimize the image to your eye. Me, I like to be able to optimize it. So in the scenario where you're in a brighter environment, let's say it's a full moon and you're using these, but then you're trying to identify what kind of animal is under a tree shaded by that moonlight. Well, the auto gating is going to do the average environment. It's going to adjust for all that ambient moonlight, and it's going to probably bring that image down because of the average light, right? Well, that dark spot under the tree is then going to get a little bit darker. Whereas with the manual gain, if you care more about that tree, you can be like, no, I like where we're at. You can dial for under that tree. Personal preference, there's pros and cons to either. I will admit the downside to the manual gain is if you're using it in more of a tactical environment where you need to rapidly go from a bright environment to a dark environment, then you may have to free hand up and take the 2 seconds to tweak it, which could be a big deal to you depending on your use case. Now, I don't want to make it seem like there's not a large range that you can see at one time, because there is a pretty substantial dynamic range through these tubes. So I'm not saying that you're going to be screwed with manual gain in those scenarios I just mentioned, but personal preference, I like having that control for the reasons that I stated. Now, I had talked about manual gain, and not to confuse you guys that aren't into night vision fully yet, although these have manual gain, they are auto-gated. Now, gain is different than gating. Gating is really an internal protection feature to protect the tubes from too much light coming in. So think about it as a gate that kind of can flash with different frequencies depending on the intensity of the light coming in, or at least that's my current understanding. Hopefully I'm putting out good info here. Roast me in the comments if I'm wrong. But let's say I turn them on in this bright studio environment. Well, that auto gating is definitely going to flash on to kind of kill the amount of light coming to the tubes. Now, if it's too intense, these do have a bright light shut off protection feature where it'll kill the power automatically so that you will not damage the tubes. There's another feature that I kind of think helps protect, and that's that if you haven't touched any of the controls or articulated these to where they shut off, no controls have been manipulated whatsoever, they shut off after 60 minutes. So that's going to save you battery, which again, the battery life is so great. I'm not particularly worried about battery life savings, but the number one way people can damage their tubes is, again, in the scenario where, all right, I just walked off the range, I'm gonna go get a drink of water or whatever, and I forget to turn them off, and I get sidetracked with something, and they're currently on a tailgate, bed of my truck, whatever. They're aiming downrange, it's roughly dark, but maybe there's a radio tower light or a street light in the distance, and if that light, even though it's not super intense, just doesn't move on your image intensifier inside, it can burn that in, sometimes permanently, unfortunately. So I don't want to make you think that you have to be super, super careful and baby these. I've looked at plenty of bright lights, briefly and done all kinds of different lighting environments with these. No damage has occurred. I have been, responsible with them though. But you don't overly have to baby them either. They are, made for rugged and dynamic use. But it'll shut off after 60 minutes to hopefully prevent severe damage where you, for whatever reason, left them on overnight aiming at something. At least it cuts off at that 60-minute mark. Now, you do also have a built-in IR illuminator. It is controlled with the power switch. So the power switch on this, it has a detent, you pull it outwards, you rotate it, so you can't inadvertently turn it on or turn it off. You then rotate an additional position to get that IR illumination to turn on, similar to a PVS-14 style power switch for those that are familiar with it. Now, I don't want you to think that the built-in IR illuminator is going to illuminate things 50 yards plus downrange. That being said, it is a very useful working light if you need to do small tasks in proximity, 10 feet inwards. It will light up the environment pretty well for you. So it is a useful feature. Not all housings have it, but luckily the Armasight BNVD 40 does have that feature. The BNVD 40 is powered by a CR123 battery, or it did include an adapter to use AA batteries. Rule of thumb, you can expect 20 to 25 hours out of these kind of units. There is a low battery indicator inside the housing. There's a LED that is turned on. You get a little red glow if the IR illuminator is on, just to give you a heads up that you do have IR illumination on. That will flash if you have low battery. So it's got all the built-in warnings so that you aren't left in the dark, literally, last second. So very, very useful features there. Now, while we're talking about specs and features, I do want to cover a hot topic, which is the specs or spec sheets associated with this night vision device. If you are browsing the internet and doing your due diligence when you're investing what I consider to be a pretty penny for night vision devices such as these, I'm sure you see people talking about specs and spec sheets, this, that, and the other, right? If you are shopping online for the Armasight Binos or even their PVS 14s, you'll notice that they guarantee a minimum FOM, figure of merit. Now, what is figure of merit, or FOM for short? That is going to be the signal to noise ratio multiplied by the resolution in line pair of the unit. So you're getting a very top level understanding of the quality of the tubes. It's a quick way to decide, oh, that sounds like a pretty good tube, let's look into it more, but it's not necessarily all comprehensive. There's other features and specs that kind of go into the quality of a tube. I actually would prioritize signal to noise ratio over resolution. At some point your eye can only perceive so much resolution, and I'd rather have a cleaner, less noisy image. But again, getting into the weeds there a little bit, that's for a later video. There's going to be people online that'll lead you to believe that you can't get your spec sheets for the Armasight systems. They'll say, oh, they're mystery tubes. That's actually not the case. Those people are misinformed or biased to try to get you to shop from their personal small business where they may sell night vision devices. Armasight keeps complete traceability of the tubes. You can request the tube sheets upon request. Okay, so they will not deny you of those whatsoever. You can get those. In fact, after they shipped these out to me, these were a guaranteed 2,000 minimum FOM unit. They have, for a little bit more money, you can get a higher guarantee. I believe it's $23.97 FOM. These was a 2,000 minimum FOM unit. They didn't know I was going to request spec sheets. At the time of them sending these to me, I was still very new to the night vision game. Spec sheets was over my head. Months later, I asked if I could get the spec sheets so that I can give you guys a better feel of the quality of tubes that came in these. Lo and behold, they had complete traceability, and they mailed the sheets to me for ITAR reasons. And the right tube came in at 2409 FOM, and the left tube came in at 2333. Now, I'm going to overlay the other specs for those of you guys that are really technical into the night vision game already, so you kind of have an idea of the quality, but also how well they matched these tubes. That's the other thing, guys, is the tubes have to be reasonably matched so that it's not a literal headache when you're trying to use them. Point being, I would consider that to be pretty quality tubes. My current understanding of the night vision world is that some FOMs start down in the 1400s. We're really talking more the generation 2 that don't really have great signal to noise ratios. In my opinion, when you get 1800 to 2000, that's where it's starting to get into your acceptable range. 2000 to 2500 is now your pretty solid tubes, and 2500 up is going to be your premium, your absolutely ridiculously crisp and clean tubes. But now you're spending 5 figures typically for a set of tubes like that with a quality housing. So nonetheless, the Armasight tubes, especially at the price range they're currently coming in, and the things that you can get with it, pretty solid specs. It almost met the $23.97 minimum for that you have to spend a little bit more. Now, I'm not guaranteeing you're always gonna, hit a home run and get as lucky as I did with the set that I currently have on hand, but just know they are really high quality tubes, and they are manufactured by Elbit Systems of America. So I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you guys that might be tube snobs out there. To my eye, they've been remarkable. I've enjoyed the heck out of them, and I can see a rabbit at 600 yards away clear as day when there's good moonlight out. I'm not kidding. I can actually see the hopping motion in the distance and know, oh, that's a rabbit. I'm not really interested in that. Let's move on to another area of the ranch looking for some hogs. So next is going to be the thing that everyone is probably most interested in, and that's going to be a handful of sample footage. Just know, again, I mentioned this in the beginning, there's absolutely no way I can do these justice whatsoever through a camera. Now, I have a clip-on recorder. That's why I have the gaffer tape wrapped around, because I kind of had to shim it. It was made for a PVS 14. This housing is actually a little bit more compact than a PVS 14. It's a 1080p recorder, but the problem is it really lacks dynamic range. So when I have illumination on, it basically washes out completely, even though to the user's eye, you can completely see what's going on in that illumination pattern. So do keep that in mind when I'm showing you the sample footage. When I rig my actual camera up to look through the tubes, it's a much cleaner image. You get more dynamic range. It's closer, but it just does not do this system justice. So just know that I'm doing my best to portray the quality, but it's really not possible. It's very difficult to record through these night vision devices in their full glory. So even though it's not possible for me to make you experience the magic of these tubes firsthand, I think this footage does a fairly decent job showing you the amount of retained resolution and clarity when you are looking through these tubes. Now, I'm going to stop talking and let you draw your own conclusions, but just know that the footage you're seeing here is a mixture of both the Armasight BNVD 40s as well as an Armasight Generation 3 PVS 14 with Pinnacle tubes that are similar specs as well, just because it is easier for me to rig a PVS 14 for you guys to take a look through than the BNVD 40s themselves. And the internal recorder, like I said, does not really do a great job at retaining the clarity and resolution. And for those that aren't aware, the IR illuminator and laser that you see me using here on the range footage is only visible through the night vision devices, which is what makes them so fun to play with, but it is also what gives them such an advantage for tactical scenarios or hunting scenarios where whatever you happen to be illuminating has no idea that that IR light is cast upon it. So hopefully this footage did it a little bit of justice, again, given that it is somewhat difficult and challenging to record through these kind of devices, but just know these are absolutely phenomenal to your naked eye, and I highly recommend you take a look through these if you ever get an opportunity to do so. Okay, so if you're still around or you've skipped to this part of the video, maybe you're now interested in picking up a pair of BNVD 40s, or maybe I've now just intrigued your interest in night vision in general. So what do you need to get started? If you're gonna run binos, obviously you need the device. That's a no-brainer. If you didn't realize that, I can't help you, and I think you should probably wait a little longer until you invest in some serious gear like this. But you can see it's obviously interfaced to a mount. Now, what's included in the Optics Planet bundle is gonna be a Wilcox G24 mount, which is super high quality. I actually kind of have an issue with the monopoly they have on the market, because if you wanted to buy it separate, it's gonna be anywhere from $450 to $500, a lot of times used at that $450 price point. Why is that? I wish I had an answer. It's a piece of aluminum, although it's very well engineered. It's made by Wilcox. That being said, anything in the night vision game is unfortunately pretty expensive. If you thought shooting during the day was expensive, well, wait until you turn the lights out, guys. It gets ridiculous fast, but it is addicting. So, Wilcox G24 mount, you then need to interface it with something like a head shroud or a helmet. So what's included in the Optics Planet bundle is a Team Wendy bump helmet. Again, high quality helmet, not the cheapest thing to go get out by yourself. So the fact it's part of the package deal at the price range it's coming in at is a pretty good deal for the end user. I personally prefer helmets because you can add accessories. You can see I have a little light on here. I did put the battery pack that was included in the bundle as well. It's kind of acting as a counterweight, but now I know I have 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 extra hours of use if I end up needing it on the fly. So there are rail sections on both sides to add all kinds of lights and accessories. You can also add hearing protection to your helmet. I have not yet done that. That may be in the works, but that is also a nice feature to where you just grab it and go, and it's all together, everything you need in one bundle. So device, mount, something to put that mount on your head. Again, I recommend a helmet. The other thing that's nice about helmets is you can see these bands here. It's basically a secondary safety feature for your device. It'll take some of the slack out of the mount as well, but you can retain the device. So a lot of night vision mounts have what's known as a breakaway feature, to where if you snag it on something, it'll actually disconnect from the mount so that you don't cause severe neck injuries or other bodily injuries. If you accidentally bump it and you kind of want that play with the breakaway feature, but you don't want your nice investment to drop on the ground, well, that's what these, you see all these guys running these elastic bands, which again, were included in this Team Wendy bundle. So you are truly covered right out of the gate. Obviously you want something to store it in. I see guys using little Pelican cases that they cut the foam out just for safekeeping. I've been using the included Optics Planet bag, which has a nice Armasight logo. It has an internal storage for the binoculars. It even fits my clip-on recorder in that, and all the accessories and things that I typically use with it, like the Watchman IR, etc. They all go in this bag, stored very nicely and well protected. Also, should I ever forget to turn them off, this is a nice sealed bag to where I shouldn't be burning the tubes. So all in all, I've really enjoyed the BNVD 40s. I haven't had any issues to date. They are made pretty rugged with that aluminum housing. Admittedly, when you use stuff in the dark, you tend to kind of bump around a little bit. So you can see there's a little bit of wear and tear starting to show on my BNVD 40 housing, but nothing's loosened up. There's nothing that looks like it's about to start to break. Just some nicks and scruffs here and there from what I've been putting them through. But they're made well. They're made for true rugged use out in the field. So I actually am pretty confident that I don't need to worry about them. Should anything change, I'll make sure to pin a comment below and let you guys know that there's some potential concerns over time. I think the biggest game changer for me is that I'm able to now drive around while being able to see through windows in my vehicle when scouting for hogs at night. That's what we do a lot on 4 Mile Ranch, is hog hunting. Before, I would have to stop the vehicle, get out, and then scan with thermal. It's been really, I've been kind of spoiled being able to just sit in my truck, look around. Again, seeing things at 600 yards away, no problem when there's enough light outside. Or worst case, I get kind of lazy and I hang an IR illuminator out the window and scan as I'm driving. But it's been really fun to use, and honestly, once you drink the Kool-Aid of night vision, there's no going back. I'm trying not to make this video any longer than it needs to be. Keep your eyes open for all the additional add-on night vision content that I've already put out on the channel and will continue to put out on the channel. I'm going to get more into the nitty-gritty of night vision and how it works in a later video. I've already put out some cool sensitivity testing video of the BNVD 40s and different optic tests. There's going to be a big IR laser comparison video coming up, so lots of stuff in the works, guys. Stay tuned for that. But I really want to thank you for taking the time to stop by and check out this video on the channel. And as always, guys, have a good one.